Economist Koketso Mano joins us now for reaction to the CPI data. Good afternoon to you, Koketso. It's all the nice things in terms of food that are on the upside with the inflation and a little bit troublesome, but on the serious side of this conversation, is this the reading that the market expected?
Broadly in line with what we expected. We expected the 5.2% handle, and that's exactly what we got. Even when you look at the different subcategories, food, for example, remaining flat, core inflation also remaining flat. So not too many movements in the month of May. You would know from statistics releases that, May has very few infrequent survey outcomes. So the expectations were broadly as we expected.
Let's go back to the contributing factors, food, transport as well. Talk us through the broader reading and what it is telling us about this particular time around.
So with transport inflation, we did see a lift in public transportation, in fuel inflation as well on average. You would remember that in the month of May, we were still experiencing increases when it comes to fuel. So we still saw those increases coming through on the CPI. But the fortunate thing here is that going forward, we have seen a sizable cut in June. When you look at the daily data from the Central Energy Fund, you will also see that July numbers are also looking quite positive. So fuel shouldn't be, continue to be something that adds to inflationary pressure, at least in the next 2 months or so. And food, on the other hand, we've continued to see that slowing from the post-pandemic pickup, especially following the Russia invasion of Ukraine. So we started to see that slowing coming through, that number remaining flat at 4.7%. When you look at the subcategories within food, you will see that cereals have started to pick up steam, adding to inflationary pressure there on a monthly basis. We also saw lift in non-alcoholic beverages. So when you look at some of the soft commodity prices, whether it be cocoa, coffee beans, you will see that those are driving some of the increases when you look at hot beverages. So we saw those increases coming through. But on a positive front, when you look at meat inflation, fruits, you will see that those have been in deflation, detracting from monthly pressure for at least 4 months now. So there are some positive fundamentals. And I think looking forward, when we think about food inflation, we're worried about, some of those earlier hostile weather conditions, especially in the southern hemisphere, and how that's going to affect, soft commodity, and how that affected soft commodity prices, and how that will land on retail shelves. So unfortunately, in the second half of this year, we could see some strengthening in food inflation.
On the back of that, and lastly, the near-term outlook for CPI, what is it and how is the Reserve Bank and the Monetary Policy Committee expected to give into this reading?
I think most importantly, given what is being spoken about today, a stronger rand is very positive from an inflation perspective. If you think about imported prices, right, some of those input costs that are eventually passed on to consumers. So that would be something that's positive. You would immediately see it in transport inflation, for example, when you think about fuel. So the stronger rand is definitely going to be a positive story. It's something that we've been singing about, saying that, once the political uncertainty subsides, we should see a strengthening in the rand, and fortunately that has come through. And should it continue, we should see, those projections by the South African Reserve Bank that were, published in the May MPC meeting, are really coming through and supporting those rate cuts that have been anticipated, at least in the second half of this year. So that'll be something that's positive. Obviously, we're worried about the geopolitical tensions that continue in the Middle East and how that could affect oil prices. But so far, we've seen oil prices remain range-bound. They've even softened, during this past month. So that would be something that continues to support a deceleration in inflation going into 2025.
Thank you as always for your contribution. Koketso Mano is an economist with the FNB, talking us through the latest CPI data.